afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the second day of our national workshop on research methodology and academic writing, organized by the Department of English, Veer South Gujarat University. We are honored to begin our session with a very eminent scholar and academic leader. I request Professor Deepti Gupta to kindly come forward and take a seat on the dais. I now invite our chairperson for this session, Professor Amit Prajapati, to kindly come forward and take his seat on the dais. I request Professor Amit Prajapati to kindly felicitate Dr. Gupta. Thank you, sir. Dr. Deepti Gupta is a professor, Department of English and Cultural Studies, Punjab University, Chandigarh. She holds an MPhil in Stylistics and a PhD in English language teaching. With 38 years of teaching experience, she has supervised 34 MPhil and 35 PhD scholars, and mentored countless others in the field of English studies, ELT, and academic writing. She has served in several key academic and administrative positions, including Dean of International Students, Dean of Alumni Relations, and Chairperson of the Department of English and Cultural Studies at Punjab University. She has introduced major curriculum reforms, initiated international collaborations, and led capacity building program for students and teachers alike. A Fulbright Nehru Fellow in 2019, Professor Gupta has also been trained by international institutions such as James Madison University, USA, and has worked as a senior IITS examiner, BEC and Bullets examiner, and a RELO trained access trainer. She has delivered more than 200 invited lectures across India and abroad, and conducted over 100 workshops on ELT, communication, and digital pedagogy. And professional development. Her work reflects a fine balance between theory and application in language teaching and research. Professor Gupta has authored and edited several significant books, including her latest, The Evolution of English Language Teaching, in 2025, The English Paradigm in India, in 2017. Her contributions have appeared in reputed publications like Routledge, Springer, IGI Global, and ELT Journal. She has also served as a reviewer and editor for multiple international journals. We are truly privileged to have her with us today. With that, I now hand over this session to our chairperson.
Thank you, Harish. I welcome especially Dr. Deepti Gupta to the post-lunch, however, the last session of the last day. And I am sure students will be very happy this being the last session. Her topic is academic writing, the elephant in the room. Though when I read it for the very first time, though I know it is more metaphoric, I started to be imaginative about that what may happen if there is a genuine elephant in my room. So it is actually metaphoric. I am also very eager to listen to you. So I invite you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I hope you're not very sleepy. Yeah, starting with the elephant in the room. You see, all the research you do, whatever you think and feel and express, it has no meaning unless and until you can communicate and convey. Which is why I chose this as my topic. Because we may choose to ignore it, we may choose to overwrite it, underwrite it, whatever. But this elephant is sure to haunt all of us. All those who are working in the field, in any field for that matter. On an average, in a year, I get around 50 to 60 requests from scientists whose papers have been turned down by publishers or journals because they don't conform to a certain standard of academic writing. which is why the importance of academic writing and which is why we cannot ignore it. Uh, the trajectory of English in India in particular is an example for the rest of the world. It started as a hated language, as we all know, belonged to our oppressors, and then we said, अंग्रेजी हमारी दुश्मन है क्योंकि अंग्रेज हमारे दुश्मन है. We got rid of the Angrez, but we couldn't get rid of the Angrezi. Because by then it had become the lingua franca of the world. And if you look at our jumbled history of language policy, you'll find that language has a lot of emotions invested in it, which is why we could never fix an Indian language as our lingua franca. You go to South India, they will outright reject Hindi. You come to this part of the country, the Gujarati will say, Gujarati is as good as Hindi, what's your problem? You go to Punjab, the Punjabi says, mainu Punjabi pasand hai, main kyun Punjabi chheda? You go to J&K, they are happy with their form of Hindustani. So, English, ironically enough, became the lingua franca and the accepted language. Even today, the current brouhaha over the NEP, of which I am very proud, because it promotes multilingualism. It talks about multilingual teaching in the classroom. It talks about a communicative approach to dealing with languages in the school system. But where does it make a mistake? When it begins to link Hindi with being an Indian. When it forgets the fact that actually language may have a lot of investment from us emotionally, but the decision to follow a particular language for a profession has nothing to do with emotions. It has everything to do with professional success, professional development. So we need to put our emotions aside and then think about language. That was one aspect I wanted to talk to you about. That never be ashamed of being multilingual. And never rate any language as superior or inferior. Every language performs its duty of communication. It does its job. So then, why are we thinking in terms of an inferior language and a superior language? There's nothing known as inferior or superior. Language belongs to the user, full stop. The other interesting aspect, I visited a school recently, and I do a lot of teacher training for school teachers. And one question that came up was, why are all general duties assigned to English teachers? Sports day, teacher of English is the master of ceremonies. Prize distribution, teacher of English writes the certificates. All of you are nodding away, so you are aware of this. So I just asked the administrator, why do you give all these duties to teachers of English? So the answer was, English is like the potato that you can add to any dish. But then I had to tell her, ma'am, the potato has so many avatars. You have French fries, you have pakoras, you have sabzi, you have baked potatoes, you have potato ka halwa, you have samosa, the Punjabi favorite. Similarly, English also has so many varieties. When you are using your mother tongue, you automatically know how are you talking to your parents, what kind of idiom do you use. When you talk to a younger sibling, your idiom changes. When you are talking to an elder sibling, your idiom changes. When you come to the classroom, there's another change. When you are talking at the shopping center, you know exactly what to do. So where does that flexibility go when it comes to English? Why are we not as flexible in our use of English? Does anyone have an answer to this question? You're welcome. We have some chocolates for people who answer to keep you awake. Yes, please. Can we pass her a mic, please? You have the chocolates ready?
Yes, ma'am.
See, we have a full tray. You have a full tray of chocolates. अरे ऐसे नहीं एक एक करके. Yes, hopeful. Where is the answer?
I believe we are not very much flexible because we think in our mother tongue and then we translate and then we try to speak.
Yeah, she deserves a chocolate. So what are the four skills of language? Anyone?
Listening, reading, speaking and writing.
Yeah?
Listening, reading, speaking and writing.
Chocolate, please. Can anyone put them in the right order for me? Not you again. Yes, please. LSRW. One chocolate there for the young man. Listening, speaking, reading, writing. And why? Why do we grade them in this order? Yes?
Because as we see a baby born, right, first he or she used to listen to, then the then
Yeah.
by day she or he will be able to pronounce the sound.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why he
Yeah.
speaking.
Speaking.
And then reading things come, and then
Writing.
critically and creatively they used to write. That's
Chocolate, please. So you see, listening, speaking, reading, writing. When a baby is born, for the first 1 year, the baby is practically silent. So we think that the child is passive, but the child is most active at that point of time. Because the mind is registering the sounds and linking the sounds to meaning. So the child is quite a kamina, quietly observing. Have you ever wondered that in families where a lot of abuse words are used, so babies start using abuse words automatically because they've absorbed them all. Punjab is a classic case. I know because I come from there. And then comes the speaking part. Once that one-to-one correspondence between sound and meaning stands established, then you move on to reading. And then writing, which I call the crowning glory of language use. Because if you are not an efficient listener, you will not be a good speaker. If you are not an efficient listener and a good speaker, you will not be an effective reader. And if you haven't mastered all three, then you cannot be a good writer. So, listening, speaking, and reading create that cognitive bridge to writing. Which is why, when we talk about AI today and we command AI, give us a summary of this book, we're not doing ourselves a favor because we've missed that cognitive stage of reading and then moving on to writing about something. Sanjay sir, in his wonderfully illuminating talk, he talked about the gyre of W.B. Yeats, which also happens to be one of my favorite graphics, because I think of the gyre in terms of the way you evolve in your use of the language. Just as English has evolved in our society, each person evolves in the use of language. So if you are using AI to summarize what you have listened to and you are jumping to the writing, you miss that movement of the gyre. It's something like you're climbing a mountain peak And by you get used to the scarcity of oxygen. But if you are transported straight to the peak, maybe you won't survive because your body has not had the time to get acclimatized to the scarcity of oxygen. So remember, where writing is concerned, there are no shortcuts. You will have to do it the hard way and you will have to do it repeatedly. This is one activity that gets better with repetition. So why don't we have flexibility in our use of English? Because we haven't been through those listening, speaking, reading, writing, lengthy stages that we have gone through in the case of the mother tongue. We've jumped. When you are in primary school and you are exposed to English, you don't approach it step by step. It's a very sudden transition. You're not immersed in that experience of understanding English. Rather, you're on a treadmill. Because of which, when you reach the writing stage, many of us are not ready to write because the listening, speaking, reading has not been given enough attention to become that cognitive bridge. There is this argument that these days young adults are reading more on the screen than words on the paper. And there is this concern that this kind of digital reading, will it give us the results that reading text on paper does? Now, the research on this is mixed because where you are cognitively getting the exposure to different kinds of texts, you are not performing those activities that a reader does. You see, underlining words. People would say, yes, there are versions of Kindle that allow you to do that, fine. But when you write down in pencil or in pen on the margins or you underline, I was observing the handouts that Sanjay sir gave us. Some of them carry your annotations. So that is the beauty of the text. And it is not just a beauty, it adds to your development as a cognitive individual. Because as I said before, writing is the crowning glory of the language skills. So obviously, to achieve that crowning glory, you need to put in some work. You need to put in some labor. Now, look at these two. Could we switch off some lights, please? Just have a look at these two definitions of ideas on writing, I would say. That academic writing exists for a function. There's a purpose. You want to convey your research or your ideas, and you want to do it in a style that is easy for your reader to follow. As simple as that. So no one wants flowers of eloquence or literary ornaments, they want the bare facts. So give the bare facts. And there is this whole spectrum of writing where you have personal writing, informal writing on one end, and you have academic writing on the other end. So if you're writing a research paper, you can't say, this is what I think. You are welcome to think what you want. You would say, these are the findings of this research study. And readers can check these findings with their experience or with the figures with them. So remember friends, writing is a spectrum. You would have completely personal to completely formal, and you would have shades in between. There's nothing right or wrong about this whole process. It's about being appropriate to a certain purpose. So where academic writing is logical, personal writing would be emotional. I'm sure you've seen this whole table. where you are being subjective, you are being objective, and you can be tangential in personal writing. I'm not saying you can't be tangential entirely in academic writing. It would depend on the kind of readers you have, because academic writing is geared towards a certain kind of reader. You know who is your target reader. Like a performer knows who is the target audience, right? Now, just look at the first rule. Write the way you talk, then polish. This is a description of an experiment by a scientist. And obviously, this is a breathless sentence, one single sentence, with lots of technical details, without taking the trouble to explain what is about what. Right? Have you all read it? So then I'll take you to the academic writing version of this sentence, where we chopped up the sentence into smaller sentences. Are you familiar with ASL, average sentence length? Research tells us that an effective sentence in academic writing should be 10 to 14 words. And again, that is not a rule written in stone. It would depend upon the kind of readership you have in mind. So if we go back to the original, blah, 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 nothing clear. Go back to the revised version, broken up. Each part has, Sanjay sir is feeling sleepy, time for his coffee. So, you know, it's often said that when people don't understand what someone is saying, they say, "Wah, kya baat hai?" Wonderful. But that doesn't happen in academic writing. Because the moment your examiner cannot understand what you've written, you are gone. Currently, we are talking about dissertations, theses, research papers. You send a paper to a journal, it's full of jargon, the person can't get what you're saying, rejection. So my advice always is study the submission guidelines first. We usually write a research paper and then we look for a journal. I would say do the reverse. Look for the journal, look at the timeline, the submission guidelines, and structure your article accordingly. And you won't get rejected. So remember, all communication is a two-way process, whether academic or non-academic. The person at the other end must understand. Plus, remember, why are we publishing research? If you've got an article to publish, or if you are writing your thesis, why are you writing it? Why are you registering for a PhD? Any answers? What is the purpose of a PhD or a thesis? सिर्फ तुम्हें डिग्री मिलवाने का पर्पस है कि नाम के आगे डॉक्टर लग जाए, रात को कोई घंटी बजाएगा, डॉक्टर साहब जान बचा दो. क्या पर्पस है पीएचडी का? चॉकलेट्स हैं अभी. Yeah. To solve a problem. Okay.
To convey innovative ideas.
Okay, I think both of them deserve a chocolate. So to solve a problem, then you to come up with an innovative idea, and look at the third bullet point. A scientific experiment is complete only after the results have been published and understood. So your study, your research is complete only after it has been disseminated. And if someone wants to conduct the same kind of research, it should be crystal clear. What are the parameters? What is the research methodology? What was the research gap? And all this will happen only when your language is clear. Only when your language follows a certain convention, whether it is MLA or it is APA or the Chicago publishers, whatever style. So it has to be clearly followed. This is the basic acronym that we have, IMRAD. Number one, of course, one thought per sentence. Number two, there should be a clear introduction, description of methods, results, and discussion. This is the center of any academic publication. I can see some of you are starting to feel sleepy, so I'm going to give you a task to do. Can you distribute these one per person? In this handout, we'll go backwards. There is task number 6. Task number 6. Just have a look at it. No need to develop any stress about it. Does it look like a report to you? Have a look, check. Point out the features that you think can be edited to make it look like a report. Because as I told you earlier, we have to learn this flexibility in language use. We are not to be scared of the varieties of English. Do you know today we use the expression world Englishes, not English. Because there are so many varieties all over the world, all acceptable and all mutually comprehensible. So the choice which variety to use at one point of time becomes very, very significant. So here I'd like you to look at task 6. I'll give you 2-3 minutes. Underline the parts where you think there is a problem and you can improve upon it to make it look like a report. And of course the chocolates are waiting. So remember, chocolate का सवाल है. Teachers are also welcome to cooperate. No problem.
ફોટો પાડતો હતો ને મેડમ આવતા હતા આ સાઈડથી પાડતો બધા આવી જાય.
Okay, done? Done or not? You need some more time? Yeah? Yes or no?
They need 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. Okay, done. You get 2 more minutes. Okay, now with perfect honesty, each person read this. This is the report version of the same passage. And count and tell me how many places did you get right? The places that you had pointed out, the points that needed improvement. Yeah. Anyone? How many places? Six. Yes, ma'am. What about you? Six? Four? Anyone beyond six? Below four? What is the difference between the two versions? There is one error that is common to both passages. Which is that error? Mention of the year.
Extraction mark.
That's not an error.
Punctuation.
There is one word where an error has been preserved to check your reading ability. Yes, RE, right? And in a report, you would not have exclamation marks. It would not say, seems a story taken out of fairy tales. Are you familiar with the word register? Anyone? Register? Register means the vocabulary that you use for a specific field. Now, in formal report making, you don't use story taken out of fairy tales. You have a register of journalism, you have a register of law, register of literature, and as you noticed with Sanjay sir's session, register of literary theory. So you have a register for every specific field. You don't go and tell your teacher, sir, let's hang out together. You say, sir, would you like to spend some time with me? Okay, but if you go and tell your friend, would you like to spend some time with me? He or she will back you one. What are you saying? So there is a register for every kind of language use. And if you turn to task 1, you have a few samples from certain registers. I'd like you to ponder over these samples. And anybody who has an answer, please raise your hand and give us the answer. The first one, how to convert it into a formal register. Remember, we still have a tray full of chocolates. Yeah, who's going to give us the first sample? Let's run upstairs, people. Yeah?
Gentlemen, I was wondering if we all could go upstairs.
Yeah. You could improve on the gentleman because it may be a mixed group. But you'll get your chocolate anyway. Who is the chocolate presenter? The second one? Second one? Yeah, please tell us.
The members of the Board of Governors agreed to the plan.
Yes, please. One chocolate here. The third one. Just shove the vegetables into the oil and push them around quickly. Is there a specific word for cooking in oil? Saute. Let's saute the vegetables, stirring them quickly. Okay. So, why do we want to publish? Obviously, for dissemination. Your results should reach your peers. Experiments can be repeated. Conclusions can be tested. Documents must be readily available. And your progress needs to be well documented. The gap between humanities research and science research is taken too seriously, I feel. I think all the teachers sitting here will agree with me that research in humanities can very easily identify a research gap, give a clear review of literature, give a clear research methodology, have a set of research questions, and also have a set of hypotheses, alternate hypotheses. So, where is the difference between scientific research and research in humanities? In fact, I feel research in humanities is always better documented because the scientist is not aware of much of the nuances of language that humanities people are. Now we turn to rule number 4. Give a clear title. When you're saying studies on mammals or you're saying analysis of the plays of Shakespeare, it doesn't give you anything. Very, very generic. The title is the label of your research. It should have the right keywords. And remember, it's also going to be the running title through every page. So, craft it with care. Sometimes you come across such a tongue twister of a title that you can't even articulate it. So forget about the running title. And of course, avoid jargon and wastage of words. The listing of authors is again a big point of contention. How do you list them? There's no clear convention, nowhere. Usually they are listed as per contribution. The first author would always be the one who has contributed the most. And then they follow in a sequence. Sometimes you follow seniority. Sometimes that is the rule. But then everyone should agree on it. The addresses have to be very clear. And one person is the communicating author. Are you all familiar with the tool of paraphrase? Why do we use paraphrasing? Anyone? Why do we use paraphrasing? Yeah. Yes? Yeah, to make it more clear. Ma'am, one chocolate please. There's another purpose to paraphrasing. Yeah? Yeah?
To avoid plagiarism.
Yeah, one chocolate here. One chocolate here. To avoid plagiarism. Because sometimes you have a person, an author or a work listed in your reference, but you don't have a quote from the person. You just have a general idea of what the person wants to convey. So you put that in your references and use the paraphrase. This is so that you are not accused of plagiarism at a later stage, because then you can say, yes, this is. Now, plagiarism is one area that remains a very muddy area. I think it's very, very clear if you have read something that has influenced your thought process or your research, what is the harm in saying thank you? Thank you is your way through citation or through reference. What is the harm in adding that person to the list of references? As they say, आपका क्या जाता है? क्यों आपने plagiarism की accusation लेनी है? Alright? So always remember, be on the safe side. If you are picking up even the smallest cue from a work or an author, add that to the list of references. I have an iconic point here as task 2. Stopping by the woods on a snowy evening. Again, there's a typo. It has to be woods, not wood. I believe this poem is usually treated as one of the easiest paraphrasable poems. So we had 2 chocolates for the person who can give us the fastest paraphrase. Get going. I'm not putting you on a timer. You're also allowed. Please go ahead. Anyone qualifies for the 2 chocolates? Half the point? Half? 5 minutes. 4-5 lines. Okay. Let's hear your 4-5 lines. Somebody give him a mic, please. Who has the mic?
It might not be that polished, but I'll try.
Polished is a relative term, my friend.
Apologies. I might know this woods and the person, however he resides in a rustic place. He is unaware of it as I have stopped here. That's all I have written for now.
Not bad at all. Chocolate, please. Yeah, your turn.
So the persona is wandering through the woods and wondering whose house he has come across. The persona and his horse wants to rest a bit, but this is not a possibility as he is in a hurry to reach somewhere. The horse is bewildered as to why his master has stopped giving a shake of defiance. The woods are then looked at as a symbol of isolation and unattainable peace the person yearns for, that is sleep.
So you added some critical analysis as well. Okay, chocolate for him, please. So see, it's not very difficult to convert thoughts into a different structure. And if you look carefully, that's exactly what AI is doing. What we call LLM, large language models. All the input you get from AI is based on LLMs. Where do the LLMs come from? The human brain. They come from the human brain. Okay? So never imagine that you will be redundant in the age of AI. Rather, upskill yourself so that you are still relevant. And the best way of upskilling yourself is to make your writing so top notch that people ask for you to write. They ask for your writing skills. No way is AI going to reach this level of cognition, simply because it depends on input from the human brain. And the human brain is always a step ahead. Now moving on to the next important aspect, which is the abstract. As we all know, it's a mini version of the paper, and usually the journal or the volume says 100 to 250 words. It's usually one paragraph, and it has a very clear mandate that reading the abstract, the reader must know what is there in the paper or the article or the thesis for that matter. Which is why it is recommended that you write the abstract last of all, when your paper is done. Which is also why, I'm sure Sanjay sir will agree with me, we ask our research scholars to write the introduction to the thesis in the end. Because when you are writing in the beginning, you don't have the context before you. All of you will agree with me that the best introduction is the one written at the end. You keep putting your points together, but you write it when your research is done. That is when it acquires the depth that it should have. So this is the definition of an abstract. Remember, the decision to read depends on the abstract. It's almost a marketing tool. Some conventions. And most important, when a journal asks a reviewer to review an article, they send the abstract first. Would you be interested? In fact, these days you even get the abstract of a thesis. Would you be interested in evaluating this thesis? So that is the importance of the abstract. Which is why never try to write it in 2 minutes or 5 minutes. the importance of drafting in any kind of writing, even if it's a love letter, cannot be underplayed. Drafting is very, very important because every minute your mind is getting new ideas and new ways. The evolutionary curve of our mind is such that drafts will always improve. They'll never go to bad or worse. They'll always be for the better or the best. And the introduction, which follows the abstract, which is why it should be written towards the end, because the principal results and the main conclusions would not be clear until you've done your research. Rule number 8. The action verbs are very important in every bullet point. Please pay attention to them. We do try to follow a straight chronological order, but sometimes it is not possible. It depends on whether we are doing a synchronic or a diachronic study. Right? So remember, there are rules and there aren't rules. Both are equally correct. M&M? Anyone? M&M? Clarity in M&M? Methods and materials. We can give you half a chocolate. And of course, rule number 8 continued. Subheadings, consistency in subheadings. See, these are very small things, and once upon a time, we used to think that we don't need to teach people how to write. But then two things happened. The first was research in the first language, learning of the first language, learning of the second language, told us that proficiency in the second language, due to the lack of immersion, cannot match proficiency in the first language. So that cognitive bridge, the crown in the jewel that I talked about, writing may not be acquired as a skill naturally. You may need to give training. Simply because the listening, speaking, reading has not happened the way it should have. Number 2, research into academic writing and the experience of teachers began telling us that we need to teach academic writing. Today, EAL, or English as an academic language, is a separate field altogether. In my department, we now have 2 papers in semester 1 and 2 for academic writing. And due to these 2 papers, we notice a distinct improvement in the dissertation work that students do in the 3rd semester, because they are trained in how to write. Again, the importance of selection. The fool collects facts, the wise man selects them. Look at the 5th bullet point. This is from an actual experiment. What do you have to say about it? Doesn't it make the experiment laughable? The statistics have become meaningless because of the presentation. There could have been so many other ways of presenting this better. So your goal is to carefully select what you want to present, to put the whole picture together in a manner befitting your research, Are you aware of mind mapping? Anyone, can you define mind mapping for me? If I don't finish all these chocolates, I'll get a bit of a stern word from Mihir sir because he'll say आपने इतनी सारी मंगवाई क्यों? इसलिए जवाब दो और चॉकलेट लेके जाओ. What is mind mapping? Who is the person who created this concept? Anyone? Mind mapping? You want to answer? Sunil ji?
I'm not aware.
Mind mapping is simply when you sit down to write something, you create a graphic representation. What do I want to say where? There's a sample given for you here of the benefits of mind mapping. That it has these benefits for the person, it helps you plan, it helps you be creative, it increases your productivity, and can also assist in collaboration. When you put things down in the graphic mode, I'm sure you're all aware of the concept of multiple intelligence. Anyone? Multiple intelligence? What is multiple intelligence?
Like visual and the other one creative.
Yeah. Chocolate, please. Multiple intelligence simply means that we don't just learn through listening to lectures. We don't learn just through reading. We don't learn just through taking down notes. Our learning may happen through music. It may happen through physical exercise, through witnessing a dance performance, or we could use certain strategies to store information. So our mind is capable of multiple tasks and multiple ways of learning. Tony Buzan, B-U-Z-A-N, you can check out his website on mind mapping. Tony Buzan is the gentleman who gave us this idea of mind mapping. That when you are sitting down to write, create a graphic version of your piece of writing. And you'll find yourself going more systematically. For instance, each paragraph would have a topic sentence. The topic sentence is the sentence that carries the central idea of the paragraph. And that helps the reader negotiate what you have written down. Alright? So the time spent on mind mapping is not a waste because it saves you the effort of cutting out, crossing out, coming back, and it also helps you visualize how many paragraphs your writing would have. Even sometimes roughly how many words your writing would have, where you are writing against a time limit. Now this is advice for scientific writing, which I discovered on a website. And I thought that this is advice that we can also use for academic writing in all disciplines. What we call our primary sources are here the source materials. Use the source materials, compare and contrast, use and state criteria to evaluate. Suppose you are doing a comparative study of two authors. Set down the criteria. Give the specific language you are comparing. Make sure you give evidence of the comparison. Show an awareness of complexities. If you are aware that a certain field has certain complexities, you may or may not be tackling them in your thesis or research paper, but you can acknowledge them because that makes you a better researcher. Follow an argument. Follow an argument means if you are arguing something out, make sure your reader also knows the steps in that argument. Make a decision. If you are deciding something or if you have reached some conclusion, put it down in words. follow a set structure. Set structure means, suppose you are talking about a set of concepts. For each concept, have an introduction, a description, a critical evaluation, and a conclusion. Like a parallel formation. Be talkative. Be talkative means many times we take shortcuts. Why write about this? I know this. Well, you may know this, but your reader does not. So put things in words. And most important, be emotionally neutral. You can't say, this is a beautiful book. This is a wonderful piece of writing. You say, this is a book that would intrigue readers. You've got to maintain a neutral stance or may intrigue readers. Be conscious of topic sentences as I told you, and always picture the reader in your mind. Who is the reader? Now I have another task for you, task 3. These are the sentences that have been jumbled up. I'd like you to sequence them so that they form an effective paragraph. Read through and put them in a sequence. Yeah, ready? Okay, we've got 2 contenders. Okay, let's go one by one. Which is your first sentence?
B. Paragraphing is an important.
Yours is B2? And which is your second? E. Second, E. Third,
G.
everyone agrees G?
No, ma'am. It's C.
It's C.
It's
Okay,
C, ma'am.
so we have a quarrel between G and C. G, C, and how many people think it's G? That the third sentence is G. How many people think it's C? And how many people think it's A? Okay. I think G wins the game. Also because if you look carefully, the first sentence, paragraphing is an important convention of written English. It has developed as a visual way of helping the reader to follow an extended piece of writing. Now, if you jump to A here, then you are moving from the reader to sequencing. But if you go to G, then you are following the argument of the reader. Okay, you agree, sir? So then, what would you have after G? F?
Sentence within paragraph.
Okay, fine. And the next?
D for dog.
D.
A. I have D. A.
A or D?
A.
How many people say D? How many people say A? Equal number. Sanjay sir, will you be the tiebreaker? A or D?
I think A is a kind of a conclusive remark.
Yes. A is conclusive, so it will be D. D is our 5th sentence. Which is our 6th? H. Everyone agrees?
C.
H or C? Now see, H leads naturally from D. Because in D you are talking about long or short. In H you are saying specific length. So guys, understand, when you are writing, your writing should automatically flow like this. Now after H, then you can have, then yes, then you can have I. That paragraphs are not a unit of length. And then, which is number 8. A. Now A is like a conclusion. So it will be C and A will be in the end. Okay. So see again, there's not right or wrong when we are talking about paragraphs, but there is cohesive and coherent. Coherent means a progression where the reader doesn't have to strain. Could we have 2 chocolates for our 2 people, please? 2 chocolates. 2 chocolates. 1 each. So, 1 at the back. एक संजय सर के लिए संजय सर डाइट में है? Are you saying that ironically, sarcastically or actually? देखिए आप अपने टीचर्स को चॉकलेट्स खिला दीजिए, काम आएंगी बाद में. You've heard of apple polishing, no? So this is chocolate polishing. So nobody will say this is a bad paragraph if you take it to a teacher, but the teacher will say this could be better. So we are talking about degrees here. It's not a difference of kind. जैसे आप अखबार में कुछ पढ़ते हैं and you are struck by the quality of the writing. Next day you read something else and you say yesterday's was better. So try to hone that critical faculty. Why was yesterday's better? And how is today's not as good? Okay, when we say cohesion, you are aware of a magnet and iron filings. आप मैग्नेट को लोहे के ऊपर से निकालें तो सब आगे चिपक जाता है. कोहीजन में आपके आइडियाज ऐसे ही चिपकते हैं. Automatically, they are structured around a central core. That is cohesion. चिपकते हैं इकट्ठे. Coherence means clarity. कि आपकी राइटिंग में क्लैरिटी कितनी है. क्या आपके रीडर को ऑटोमेटिकली पता चल जाता है कि आप क्या कहना चाहते हैं. This is a representation of the writing process. And although we've labeled it A to F, in fact, the sequence can also be different for different people. We may not always follow A to F. Sometimes the checking may happen before while you're writing side by side. Getting started, especially if you're writing an article for a thesis, of course, you have a ready-made idea with you. You've already worked on it. But getting started on a piece or an article or a paper, that getting started is the toughest. And the biggest excuse I've heard for it is writer's block. Writer's block kuch nahi hota. It is sheer laziness that I don't want to sit down and work. Okay? So keep this little mind map in mind of the writing process. A very important part of academic writing is self-reflection. कि आपको पता होना चाहिए कि आपकी कहाँ पे गलती आ रही है और where is the place that you are getting stuck. which area, which structure, which part of speech. Learn to diagnose your problems or go to your supervisor with your writing and ask them to sit down with you and point out the areas. Face the fact if there is a specific area and then work on yourself to improve that area. I'm giving you another task to check your critical faculty. This is task 5, where you paraphrase the sentences, keeping the meaning intact. Ideally, you should be able to do all of them. All you need to do is change the shape of the sentence. Okay? A very simple hack for paraphrasing is change the words, change the structure. If it's active, convert it to passive. Passive, convert to active. Change the main verbs. Change the nouns. And you'll have a completely new sentence. Has anyone done the first one? Okay, let's hear you.
No trip to Punjab, highly appreciated, without savoring its relieved dishes.
Okay. Can we work on it further? Anyone? Yeah?
Visit to Punjab feels incomplete without tasting its famous cuisine.
Anyone who can tell me how we can improve both these versions? Anyone? Yeah? Would you like to tell us?
Sure, ma'am. You cannot fully experience Punjab without trying its famous cuisines.
That's it. You see, you use the word trip and you use the word incomplete. Right? As I said, it should not be identified as the same sentence. Can you pass on a chocolate to the young lady there? The second one? Yeah?
The teacher appreciated the students' hard work.
Hard work or students, my friend? Yes, please. Go ahead. चॉकलेट देने वाले को भी तो कभी मिलनी चाहिए. बताओ.
Students were appreciated for their hard work by the teacher.
क्या हम टीचर, स्टूडेंट्स और हार्ड वर्क इन तीन को कुछ और बना सकते हैं? Pupils, learners, hard work, effort, है ना? टीचर की जगह क्या आ सकता है? Tutor, instructor, okay? And the third one? The third one, yes please.
Not hearing his name in the winners list, the boy was disappointed.
The boy was disappointed. Chocolate, please. Can we use something else instead of winners? We can't. There are places where you cannot replace words. Remember that as well. Because many times it's quite like translation. There's nothing known as a perfect translation. Similarly, there's nothing known as a perfect paraphrase. There could be pitfalls, there could be places where you may not be entirely successful. I have put together a few do's and don'ts for you. Simple ways to avoid plagiarism, because as all my colleagues would agree, plagiarism is becoming a major concern. The way India is on the hit list for plagiarism, and the way so many researchers have had to retract their publications. Yeah. So we need to be very, very aware. There are very simple ways through which you can avoid being accused of plagiarism. Okay, should I move on? So see, successful paraphrasing without plagiarizing involves a bit of a dance. तो क्या कहते हैं? नकल में भी अकल चाहिए. But you will still need to add a citation. You will still need to acknowledge that you have read that particular work and you are using an idea from that work. So what is self-plagiarism? Self-plagiarism? Anyone? Yeah? बताइए sir.
I'm on a diet.
You can give it to one of your kids, yeah. Yeah.
Not acknowledging your own work.
Yeah. Not acknowledging your own
work.
Yeah.
Published earlier.
Published earlier. Chocolate for sir. And one for sir. You can take it back from him afterwards. So it's tempting to recycle your work, but see, you are compromising the publisher or the journal. Just journal में आपका छपा है. Many times we see, oh, I read this article in such and such newspaper, and today it's in this newspaper. Well, that is ethically incorrect. Even if the publisher doesn't accuse you of self-plagiarism, but it's not right. So if you are using another version, then add a note at the bottom that this was originally published as this, and this is an edited or modified or adapted version. And most important, use a plagiarism checker. Does your university subscribe to one?
Yes.
So you can ask your supervisor. Don't wait till the end of the thesis. Keep checking for plagiarism at intervals. One chapter, half a chapter. ताकि आपको साथ-साथ पता चलता रहे if you are making some errors. Because these tools diagnose the plagiarism. Is it in your writing? Is it in your citation? Or if you are unconsciously copying chunks of text from somewhere, they tell you. So very simple checklist for avoiding plagiarism. Don't worry, Mihir sir has the PPT. और आजकल के टाइम में मेरा ख्याल से सब प्रोफेसर एक्नॉलेज करते हैं that we are not gods on Mount Olympus. We live in this world and we use sources from this world. So we are happy to share whatever we have. So this is the simple checklist for you to avoid plagiarism. Now I'm winding down my presentation. These are questions that you need to ask yourself when you are considering a journal for publication. As I told you, go the other way around. If you have an idea or you have a rough paper, look at the submission guidelines of the journal you want to submit to. Check the timeline. These days, with journals that are of a high quality, you also need to check whether they'll be charging you an editing fee. Many times they charge a very high editing fee. So please check all these parameters and then ask yourself these questions so that you are prepared for publication. We often say, I'll do the proofreading later, or I'll do the proofreading myself. Proofreading is a highly technical task, and you cannot do your own proofreading 100% effectively because your mind is involved with the content. You know the difficulties you face by writing, you know the argument, and you are involved with the material presented there. The study of the brain and the study of the process of reading tells us that a lot of reading involves predicting. Our mind predicts the next word. And because our mind predicts the next word, we will not read the error. For us, it is the correct word. So many times, there is a perfect thesis before you, and all of a sudden, now as teachers of English, these errors jump out at you from the page. There's a full page of words before you, and your eye focuses on the one spelling error. So this quality of, this trait of prediction, I would say, you need to switch off if you are proofreading. And it's not easy to do it with a document you've written yourself. So always have someone reliable, dependable, someone with high language skills, or train yourself to proofread. You can do that by focusing only on the words, not on the meaning, not on the context. It may be difficult at first, but you can do it by and by. I'm giving you a sample of writing which you can easily read. कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी पढ़ने में. है ना? Why is that happening?
Because there is the psychological study that whenever we are reading something, we don't go through the each and every alphabet. We just go through the first and the last one.
We do a lot of chunking.
Can I get the chocolate?
Yes, please. Please, chocolate.
I'm just kidding, ma'am.
No, you will get it. We do a lot of chunking when we read. For instance, we know that these 5 words should mean this. So we skip the 5 words and we get the meaning. We know that the next word is this, so we don't pay attention to the spelling. Okay? So this little poem shows you that every other word is misspelled, letters are jumbled, but still you could get the meaning. That is the beauty of the human mind. And that is what you have to harness for academic writing. It's not a skill that you cannot acquire. Rather, it's a skill that you can easily and comfortably acquire. Now, as per Sir's instructions, I'll wind up so that nobody gets impatient and starts running away. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please go ahead. Task 4 we didn't cover. I'd like you to do this by yourself. Whenever you have the time, have a look at it and work on its cohesive features. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, madam, for your wonderful presentation. I am actually very happy because of your chocolatey way of teaching. And what I could remember, you are like a mother teacher. You are like a mother who would give a chocolate to her child, and in return, so you are like a mother, and who would give a chocolate to the child,
Now
and
we
in
should
return,
get one.
you will get the work done. Actually, my purpose was to get the chocolate. So thank you very much. Actually, in a very light and polite way. Thank you. True, true. So actually, in a very light and polite way, you have actually discussed all the characteristics of a good research. So I am sure our students will be benefited a lot. The house is now open for discussion. Those who have not taken any chocolate, still you have some yet.
We can link a question to a chocolate.
True, true.
4. Please go ahead.
4 good questions.
Yes. Sanjay sir will decide whether you'll get the chocolate or not. Yeah. So we have an outside observer. Yes, please. Ask away. You had a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Mike, please.
There are some conferences and seminars in which we represent our paper, like paper reading content, but they do not publish the papers. Just we represent the paper. So there is no citation, like if it's not published, and then in other paper, if we refer to whatever we have said, so how to do citation of it? And with some changes, if can we send it to publish somewhere else? Can we consider it as a plagiarism?
Yes, you can, because you can add a footnote on the first page. This is a copy of the paper presented at such and such conference but not published. Just add that. Yes, chocolate please. Yeah, any other question? There was somebody this side. Yes sir, please.
Ma'am, it's really wonderful session. I can say that this should happen earlier, but no issues. We are actually learning. We are learner, we can say. So now my question is towards plagiarism, right? As you mentioned during self-preservation, that we need to mention whatever sources we are taking. Now, there is any rules or there is any, I want to know that there is any kind of rules that how much we can take from somebody's paper. There is any rules, what's the criteria basically we need to follow while doing this?
Which is the style sheet that you follow? We are MLA?
MLA.
MLA has very clear guidelines on how many words, how many lines, how many paragraphs, and how you are to maintain these citations. So I would suggest, because even I don't remember all of them by heart.
10%. Even UGC now says 10%. Only 10%. Goes there.
UGC also says.
And that does not mean like what means Modi, right? Yeah. You were asking how much you can take. You
Yes,
cannot
yes.
take anything. You can just take the idea. Okay. And even if you take the idea, you have to acknowledge. Acknowledge it. Yes. What you can take, you will have to put it in quotation and cite it properly.
And the length that will give you clear guidelines. A chocolate for Mr. Modi.
Take the chocolate for not taking. Yes, yes.
Yeah. Anybody else? Please go ahead. Over to you, sir.
Think we have given this.
As you have already told that sometimes we should have to give an article or publish an article.
Anywhere, then you said that you shouldn't be using jargons, right? So why do we learn them if we are not to use them? Suppose if I publish a paper, write a research paper, and if I have that sort of vocabulary, then why you have told us that in many of the scholars they do believe that the simple the better. Then what is the essence of ambiguity? I believe that any novel or any piece of work becomes timeless with its element of ambiguity.
Yeah.
So if it is to be understood simply, then I don't think there is any difference between Chetan Bhagat and Salman Rushdie.
Yeah. That's a good question, a thought-provoking one. Would you like to answer, Sanjay sir? Please give sir the mic. We would appreciate your input.
You are asking two questions. One, you are pointing out towards creative writing. Chetan Bhagat versus Salman Rushdie. Okay. And then you are talking about research writing, academic writing. Now remember, Madam spoke about registers. There is a certain register of research writing which is jargon intensive. A lot of theory, quote unquote theory. Now I still can't understand a lot of Jacques Lacan. I keep on thinking, what is this roundabout way of saying? But then I again think that, oh, but this is Jacques Lacan. If I have understood him simply, am I wrong or am I right? You know, these are all self-doubts that have come. Over the years, I have understood that jargon is a register. In itself, it's a style of writing in itself in what we call theory, literary theory. Obviously, that which is simple is not simplistic. Now, for example, Madam gave a beautiful example of stopping by the woods. There is not a single word which is difficult here. And yet, discussions are still going on in the classroom about what could it possibly mean. So it is from the eco-critical perspective, what a kind of a beautiful relationship does the horse and the man have. My horse gives the bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. There is a kind of a communication that to the man's suicidal thoughts, that if I stand here I need not do anything. I can give up fighting. So many. There are layers and layers of meaning that goes on. So the simple, often we come across very profound things mentioned in a very simple kind of a way. So that there is a world of that aspect also, the simple, which is profound. And there is, on the other hand, a world which is highly, jargon intensive, very full of jargons. And I suppose if we read both the types of writing, then we are training ourselves the left hemisphere, right hemisphere, both the brains are working together. We know a little bit of this, we know a little bit of that. And as academicians, as teachers, then probably we become a little fuller. We become slightly better. Anyway, whatever we do, we can't stop writers from writing in their style, isn't it? They will. So we are the reader. I am reminded, madam, of when you were talking about how difficult it is to proofread one's own work. And then madam mentioned a very important thing. She mentioned that while we are reading our own work, because we have written it ourselves, we are anticipating it. And therefore our mind, shuts off. We know this is it, but it is actually not. There is, on the other side, there is something called the reader's response theory. Stanley Fish was asked by a simple student, is there a text in the class? And is there a text in the class? And Stanley Fish started taking the meaning very literally. Yes, there is a text in the class which is not an anthology. Student said, sir, I did not mean that. The postgraduate student clean bold Stanley Fish. Student said, I don't mean that, sir. What I mean is there a way of reading in the class? Is there a proper method? A text. Actually is the. Is there the way of reading the text which is complete in the class or not? So reader's response theory also says that when we read, we anticipate. When you watch a movie, opening a part of the movie, you think, oh, now what is going to happen with this person? We go ahead. Because our mind is in that, when we get involved, we start anticipating. Therefore, it is all the more advisable that when we write ourselves, we take the help of a peer person to read our work. In fact, one of the good acknowledgements you will find in books, the author is acknowledging that I discussed my ideas, the first draft was read by so and so person, this and that. So it's always good to, anyway you are testing your ideas with that. I don't know whether I have answered
No,
or not.
excellent. I think I should have added a rider there. When I say don't use jargon, I mean don't use jargon for the sake of using jargon. If you feel that there's a very old joke, two Indians are in the US and a policeman stops them. So one Indian says, don't worry, I'll take care. So he says, तू कैसे देखेगा, तुझे तो इतनी English नहीं आती, तो उसको फिक्र मत कर. So he goes and the policeman comes out of his car and he says, what do you have to say? He says, to the principal, please grant me 2 days leave as my sister is getting married, and he completes the whole application. And before the policeman can say anything, he walks off. So his friend says, तुमने तो कमाल कर दिया, चुप करा दिया उसको. He says, अगर वो अभी भी चुप ना होता, मैं उसको thirsty crow की कहानी सुनाता. So jargon, when used in front of somebody who cannot understand it, is like this. It depends on your reader. Don't use jargon because you want to use it just for the sake of using it. Shashi Tharoor is known to be a fluent user of English. But if you recall, in the initial days of his speeches, people would say, does he deliberately use those words? Today we realize that he has a vocabulary that is extensive. So he's using those words. And there is also an added factor in writing. You've seen an article that carries keywords. So in the beginning, you sensitize the reader. These are the words that you will come across. Be sure of their meaning. That is one way of being reader friendly. If you are using jargon that you feel people will not understand easily, put it in the keywords. Okay? So the whole idea is to be upfront, accountable, and transparent. Okay? Anybody else?
चॉकलेट
सर को चॉकलेट दिया आपने और पीछे दिया वहां भी देना है.
It was an important question.
Yes, and a very good question.
question में और क्या है?
Is there any question?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
अरे last question last है. Yes,
बोलो,
yes.
ask the question for is there any chocolate? Then I will ask it.
नहीं question पूछिए. हम देंगे यार.
हाँ जी पूछिए.
Ma'am, you have just said that use jargon when it is needed. But I've personally observed if a speaker is speaking and using that obfuscation of language, if speech is being obfuscated, just like our constitution, no one understands the constitution, right? I mean, we require some expert to understand the constitution. So whatever is being performed in that obfuscation way, we like it. Whether we understood or we don't, that's another matter, but we like it. And the same thing goes on the presenting paper and research things. If something is written in simple way, people will think that it is written in simple way. There might be, not the depth we can take out. And Derrida, as Sir mentioned, the Joglana and Foucault, and these theorists, they are known for their ways of using language, obfuscations of language. And so that what fascinates even researcher to write in such a way. And that's why people, the researcher fall in trap to write in such a way, whether I'm delivering my message or the purpose behind it in the research, it doesn't matter, but language should be complicated. Yeah. And my another question is to Sanjay sir. Sir, you mentioned some of the theory, like reader response and other theory. So in my I might be having little understanding of theory. I can say myself ignorant about it completely, but I'm in order to just know your idea, I'm just asking a question. That some of the theories I personally say that talking about the same thing again, and again, but putting it different way, putting in different words. Some of the theories, like let me give you an example that Victor Slosky talked about defamiliarization, right? And the same concept has been taken further in I would say even we can say that in reader response we can say that, and even deconstruction we can feel it, and even the new criticism it can be seen. And Gayatri, Julia Kristeva talked about that intertextuality. So that intertextuality reference, that the word, it might have been coined by that, but that very idea was seen in many other texts as well. So that word was coined, but the idea was already there. And the many things were already there, but it has been taken further later. Let me give you a very example of new criticism. New criticism says that we should read text as it is, without author's background or any historical background. And that philosophy, it comes from the philosophy of Edgar Russell, if I'm not forgetting. He says that phenomenology. He said we should approach anything, any object, as it is, without being biased of that. So that idea has been taken further, and we are using that idea in that way of reading the text, and that become new criticism. So, in new criticism, some of the people they turns against new criticism. They start talking about post-structuralism, deconstruction, and then it goes on. Then and then new historicism emerges out of that. Then it goes on. But initially, many of the theorists I said that they talked about the same thing, but using different words.
Go ahead. Go. It's directed to you.
So this is an extension of jargon, and one of the purpose of theorizing anything is to come to identify certain terms. Okay. Now, for example, I gave you the term from Amitabh Ghosh. Okay. Where does Amitabh Ghosh borrow it from? From collective unconscious of Jung. Correct? So, it can seem that this is being rephrased in a different way. But sometimes it is theory has its own framework. It is used when Jung is using collective unconscious, Jung is disagreeing with Freud and saying that Guruji, I don't agree with your individual unconscious. There is something called collective unconscious beyond individual unconscious. Okay. Here, Amitabh Ghosh is using environmental unconscious very clearly. The first word states that what we are unconscious about probably lying in our mind. Okay, this is so sometimes the context defines the theoretical term. Context defines the theoretical term. You spoke of Husserl and you spoke of knowing something as it is, or the phenomenological world. He is actually a philosopher who is actually trying to say that what Shklovsky and the Russian formalists have also said, how do we know the stoniness of the stone? We can only talk about the stone as it appears to us. Now, if I am going and my friend says, be careful of the stone, then I am not really interested in knowing the stone. I am interested in myself not falling flat on the ground. What is the context? The context is not knowing the thing outside there. It is about my own safety. But philosophers have very rightly said that we don't know what a thing is, which is another thing. We can have language for that, we can have description for that, we can have terminology for that, but we don't know what it is. So in that sense, things have kind of, so from Husserl to Shklovsky or the Russian formalist, Matthew Arnold talking about, knowing the thing as it is, as the thing is. Obviously, there is a problem knowing the thing as the thing is. You can take this entire argument all the way back to the Greek culture when on the which is the mountain there, the
Olympus.
Two words were written. One is know thyself, and the other is nothing too much. Now, nothing too much seems to be a parallel of Madhya Marg or Madhyam Marg of Buddhism. Sometimes people arrive at similar thoughts in different cultures, in different societies, in different times, in the same culture. So it is because the power of the underlying idea is such. For example, the power of the underlying idea that can we even know ourselves? That is why it must have been said that know thyself. What is the meaning of aham brahmasmi? बार बार में हम अहंकार और उसकी तरफ चले जाते हैं और मेरे अहंकार और मेरे अहम को स्वयं को ठेस पहुंचा उसकी तरफ चले जाते हैं. We are so sensitive about ourselves. तो वो कहाँ ब्रह्मस्मि? Okay. So the underlying idea is how do we know? Now, what is your name, sir? Sharju. The point therefore is You have to decide, for example, how much theory is too much theory. Okay? But you cannot decide it theoretically in a very offhand kind of a way. Criticism and theory says, and we are all students of that, another student can say that, अरे आ मूवी में तो पैसा पड़ी गया. A student of criticism will say કેટલા પૈસા પડે? તો ચિલ્લર હતા કે નોટ્સ? શરૂઆતમાં જ પડી ગયા હતા કે વચ્ચે પડ્યા છે? ક્લાઇમેક્સ સારું નતું એટલે પડી ગયા? We cannot say something is good or something is trash in an offhand manner. What I'm telling you is that if you don't like something, or you say that beyond this is only or merely repetition, you bring that, what is it a repetition of? Only then you can say that. So theory is necessary. You know where has theory come from? A way of seeing, perspective. Seeing does not mean eyes, huh? Seeing means vision. Seeing means vision, a way of looking at it, seeing it. So that is where we have to know where what is too much, and we have to say how it is too much. Thank you.
We'll go ahead with the valedictory. Yes, quick valedictory. Ma'am, please be here. We'll just finish with some remarks. So this is an extension of our valedictory. And so we have already come to the end of the event. So 5-day gala event, and sponsored by the PM Usar Nehru scheme, and I wanted it to have it with also proper food and breakfast and tea, and so we could manage it. And the best thing is that we could invite 10 resource persons from different places of India. That's why it is connecting to our colleagues who are experts in other places. They took a lot of strain to come to Surat, even for a short stay, and spend time with us, and we interacted with them. So that's the basic purpose of having this workshop. So my MA students and research scholars will be entering into the field of academics in future, and so definitely you are enlightened by this exercise, and you would be writing your articles, writing your papers, writing your chapters, and attending seminars and conferences, going to publish your writing, putting them in the public domain. So always you should have the element of criticism. You will be criticized by others. So as long as you have the text with you, so you are free to revise it, edit it, rewrite it, and discard it. You can put it as manuscript on your own bookshelf. But when you put it somewhere in the form of an article in the public domain, so you should be open to criticism. So that's how our preparedness. I sought to ask the question, or even Meet, I think, ask the question. So that is the way of scholarship that is going on. So if we don't use jargon in the beginning, so we are not scholars. So we should have to prove that we are scholars. We are not ordinary readers, and we are not postgraduates or undergraduates, and we are not common readers, that we are making a travel from one railway station to another railway station. We purchased a book for just the travel period, and it was not a serious kind of reading. So here we are doing a serious kind of reading, and then we are also trying to reflect on that reading.
we have to express our reactions in the form of scholarly articles. So we have to have a continuity, as T.S. Eliot has said in that. So tradition and individual talent. So we have to prove that we are individual talents, and we have to also establish our position in the tradition. And how it will happen if you don't prove that you are a reader. You have already read the earlier writers. You know the trends in philosophy. And then only you can come here and position yourself. When Sanjay sir was making his presentation, I was trying to remember that I asked my guide what should be my area of research as a postgraduate. Then he said, no, now American literature is the most important area. You go there. So I went there, studied for 6 months. Then he came back from for his Fulbright scholarship, and then he himself said, now American government has stopped giving funding. So go to Canadian studies. You will go on a scholarship. So the whole period I did my study, switching over to Canadian studies, but I didn't get the scholarship. Being in Surat, the day I submitted my thesis and I got the degree, the next month I got the scholarship. You are now invited to come and spend 1 month at the University of Manitoba. So I went there on the government funding. So that's how you are becoming a part of the scholarly fraternity. You are accepted. I remember, ma'am, when I came back to Surat, I received one call from the IPS officer's wife from Himachal Pradesh that I want to work on native writing, so I want to contact you. I got your reference. I was shocked that you are in a small place called Surat and you are receiving a call from a place like Himachal or Simla. And so we are connected in that way. So I could meet all the contemporary writers whose works I selected for my research being there, because they are all contemporary, they are alive and they are working as creative artists. So you can just meet them, send them email, talk to them and interact with them, take their interviews, and that's how you are a part of the scholarly fraternity. So these are certain things that you should be very clear about, but it's not every man's cup of tea. Those who are committed to be academicians like us, we will accept them in our fold. Those who are just doing MA and they have other things to do, they are also most welcome. That's why we have now alternative narratives. We should not always go to the master narratives. You have a small autobiographical piece to write and to share with the community. You can very well do that. Otherwise, you cannot preserve your culture. So you write your autobiographical article and you try to publish it, put it online, and then that will be appreciated by somebody else. In the last interview when Dr. Prajapati was presenting, and he has worked on Narmad, and he wrote some poems on in Gujarati, I think, on Surat or this South Gujarat. So a foreign publisher, a foreign editor invited him to contribute some poems, and that has been come out in an anthology, international anthology, and that he brought his anthology. So you can imagine that way, that my colleagues, I felt very proud that my colleagues' poems are published in an international volume, selected, compiled, reviewed, and edited by an international scholar. So he is already established author. That's why you all should, those who are participants, you have taken something with you, and you also should disseminate your knowledge to your future members of the community. And with these remarks, I would invite some feedbacks from the participants. So at least 1 or 2 from SEM 1, SEM 3 and PhD scholars. So a couple of feedback remarks I will invite. So be volunteers and come here. Yes. Now? You can stand there. You can speak from there.
So thank you for giving me this opportunity to give us a feedback because feedback is very important. So I can say that it's very motivating and captivating sessions taken by all the uh, presenters who have given us the knowledge, and it's really important for future scholars and present scholars too. So being a genuine feedback, I would like to say that we should do this type of sessions frequently, so at least our knowledge will go on and we can get some new knowledge, because knowledge will never end, learning will never end actually. So thank you for giving this amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Any other volunteer?
Meet, na? His name is
Meet, on behalf of your teachers and on behalf of us as teachers, I just mentioned about vision, no? We need provision for the vision, Meet. Why we cannot organize such things frequently, let us be frank about it, is that the provision, monetary kitty fund is often not available. One thing you must all note is that science and technology is being very massively prioritized over the humanities. And that shows in the lack of funds supporting such events, which are, as Meet said, really beneficial to all of us. It's not that just you learn, it's also we learn. Here is a peer person I get to meet you people, have a discussion, what is going on. I come to know about your international stature as a poet, for example. So this is how we also learn a lot of, but often we don't get the monetary opportunity. The desire is there, but the provision is not.
Yes, we have one more.
Hello everyone. First of all, I want to thank Department of English, VNSU, for arranging this amazing 5-day workshop on the research methodology. And in one of these sessions, maybe Sunil sir mentioned that ignorance is bliss. Till and then we don't know about things, we are fine with it. But in many of these sessions, there are a lot of things which just comes as it comes. We didn't understand a lot about it, but that ignorance is now uncomfortable on the place. Now we need to know about it. Now we feel the need to know about it. So even I want to thank all the resource person and the department to sensitize us on this particular manner. Thank you so much.
Any? No? In fact, all of you will be able to revisit this session on the YouTube channel. Sure, you are going to utilize that source as well.
Okay, yes, hello everyone. I really thank the department for organizing this 5-day workshop. I think at the end of 5 days, as she mentioned, it has given us a lot to think about and a lot to research upon. Where first when we started researching and writing, it was more of where to start, where to write, and we just only did a lot of reading. But now I think working much further, we've gotten an idea of where to work and how to work basically. Yes, thank you so much.
मैंने तो बहुत दी
Coordinator sir, will you join? You joined?
So the actually it is my
my mistake. I sent the coordinator sahib to go out and to take care of your certificates. And he has just gone to update whether the certificates will be, some of the participants can receive from here or all of you can collect from outside. Some volunteers will be there to give you the certificates. I think he has gone there. So I will request my colleague Professor Paresh Joshi to give the vote of thanks.
All right, I think it's an honor to stand here when my teacher is on decks. It was an amazing experience revisiting those days when we used to sit in the class. So the enthusiasm and energy has remained the same. And madam, his classes have always been engaging and humorous. The humor has also remained the same. Well, I'm pushed into doing a formal act of vote of thanks. I'm also requested that I should add it in a poetic way, and I have learned the love for poetry from my teacher. So I'm reminded of Dushyant Kumar, and this could be a repetition, but this is very apt. This summarizes the effort of Department of English. We continue to do things to make the difference. I think I had begun with भरनी पड़ती है उड़ान बार बार तिनका तिनका उठाना पड़ता है. दुष्यंत कुमार says हो गई है पीठ पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, हो गई है पीठ पर्वत सी पिघलनी चाहिए, इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए, मेरे सीने में नहीं तो तेरे सीने में सही हो कहीं भी आग जलनी चाहिए, सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, मेरी कोशिश है कि सूरत बदलनी चाहिए. So we at the department see that there is some change, right? As rightly mentioned by Sir, an event of this magnitude requires a lot of human resource, a lot of financial resource, a lot of planning, and therefore I think the sense of gratitude and expression of it is very apt here. I'm sorry, I'm doing it on behalf. I've snatched the opportunity of word of thanks from the coordinator. Coordinator is very much present here, but since I've started, I'll not stop. Anyways, I think we would begin thanking the University, Honorable Vice Chancellor and Honorable Registrar Sir for encouraging us to organize events and making available the funds which are required for organizing events like this. This event is organized under PM Usha Fund, and I'm very happy to share it with the honorable resource persons on dais that we have 5 events lined up, 1 event every month, which would mean that every month we will be doing an event of this kind, some bigger events, maybe a national seminar, an international seminar lined up. So expression of gratitude to the governing body, that is the Vice Chancellor and the Registrar. I think we don't thank each other in the family, but well, actually, head of the department who always looks for organizing this event, Sir said, the vision and provision are the key elements for organizing events. I thank colleagues who all work as turbocharged human beings. We are very much a family, so we don't wait for people to look for the hierarchy and orders. Whenever there are needs, we chip in. I think this event would be incomplete without these participants, because I think 5 consecutive days, there are few faces whom I have seen regularly, and I thank them more than those who have intermittently made themselves available. But whoever came, I think we need to thank these participants for being a part of this workshop. A cheers, a round of applause to the roadside. The volunteers, I mean, there's a team sitting here, there's a photographer here. A lot of people are working behind the curtain. You don't know what they're doing, but they've been tirelessly working. So I thank the volunteers for their commitment and hard work. The support staff, I think technical team from the university has put up the setup here. I thank one and all. Our service staff, for example, is always available for any need that arises. And then, well, the resource persons, because they have taken the most trouble. We are sitting here and working. They've traveled all the way, and traveling is equally fatiguesome. So I thank them once again. I thank one and all, and I celebrate the success of this event. Thank you all very much.
So the coordinator's remark.
Nothing, just that your certificates are at the registration desk. And so we'll collect our registration, our certificates, and then we'll have tea and then park. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great job.